Support for Higher Education in Focus comes from the Penn State Alumni Association, serving alumni and alma mater for 145 years. On the web at alumni.psu.edu. Penn State Bookstore, improving the student experience at Penn State with philanthropic support of student causes throughout the university. On the Hub Lawn or at psu.bncollege.com. The attorneys of McNeese, Wallace, and Nurek. Your mission, your goal, your lawyers. More at mwn.com. Higher Ed Jobs, a comprehensive list of open faculty, administrative, and executive positions at colleges and universities across the U.S. and worldwide. Online at higheredjobs.com. And from viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Patty Satalia with my co-host, Penn State President Eric Barron. He's in the guest seat for this edition of Higher Education in Focus. Penn State ranks among the top 20 research universities in the country, with more than $800 million invested in research activities each year. And while Penn State already contributes more to the state's economy than any other single institution, the university aspires to do more. In the second of a three-part series, we'll talk with Dr. Barron about translating the fruits of that research and innovation into economic development aimed at job creation, promoting student career success. Dr. Barron, thanks so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
Big news for Penn Staters. The state recently announced that there will probably be $264 million in state funding. That's a 23% increase. And from what I understand, a plan to restore funding to Penn State in over 2 years.
Yeah, so this is the governor's request to the legislature. So it's the first step in the process. But great news. You know, it's been a long time since anybody proposed an increase. And I think, I mean, hopefully it's also recognition of the fact that the university has said that its highest priorities are access and affordability. That would certainly help. And also economic development and job creation, which is increasingly becoming a focal point for the university.
Now, I mentioned at the beginning of the program that Penn State ranks 20th among research universities in the country with $850 million in research expenditures here at the university. But we rank 70th among universities nationwide in getting intellectual property to the marketplace, which sounds like lots of untapped potential.
Huge amount of untapped potential. I think so many different ideas, so many different possibilities, and it hasn't consciously been an objective of the university. You know, we have this sense that we feel an obligation to teach and an obligation to publish, to share knowledge. This is another way you share knowledge, and it just not being a priority. Penn State hasn't tackled it the way they should. But when Penn State tackles something, we end up to be successful.
In fact, you want to make this a hub for economic development. You mentioned other universities. Other universities do this sort of thing, getting intellectual properties to the marketplace. They actually even have things like Illinois has Illinois Ventures. Penn State will be Invent Penn State. But you want to do this on a grand scale and systematically throughout the entire institution.
Well, I think the privates have done it better. Mostly
Stanford.
Because places like Stanford, they've done it better, been more focused and felt more enabled to do this, whereas more of a tuition-driven university and a state-driven university, where we've been a little bit slower. But the opportunities are enormous, and I think the opportunities are particularly great when we don't think about individual activities, which so many universities are doing, but instead we step back and we look comprehensively at the opportunity and the things that we need to do.
You mentioned that privates might do it a little bigger and probably aren't as worried about failure, because when we talk about entrepreneurship, I was reading an article from Bloomberg and they say 8 out of 10 entrepreneurs who start businesses fail. On the other hand, two out of 10 make it.
Yes, and that 2 out of 10 is very exciting. And of course, Stanford isn't going to tell you about their failures. But as a public institution, people will focus on the failures. That's another reason why we need a little different model. We need to be helping our communities do this and facilitating this role for our faculty and students instead of picking winners.
Speaking of faculty and students, you've talked about incentivizing this entrepreneurship so that faculty is interested in helping to get the next great idea out into the marketplace. Explain how that will happen.
Okay, so a lot of different ways, but here's the basic idea to think about. And there's an old adage, every great inventor needs a great entrepreneur to get an idea to the marketplace. So now you imagine here's someone and let's just pick chemistry, and in their DNA is discovery, and that's why they're a faculty member, discovery and teaching. And they find something exciting behind door A. What are they going to do? Are they going to lift up their heads and say, I think I should take this to the marketplace? Or are they going to try to find out what's behind door B? So if we put an entrepreneur in residence, someone who's been there and done that and created licenses and patents and built companies, and if we put them by virtue of their experience on the faculty next to a chemist, then all of a sudden that chemist can still look behind door B, but they've got a partner, entrepreneur having a partnership with the inventor to get that idea to the marketplace. And then, so that's one element, hiring entrepreneurs in residence in colleges and campuses. And another idea is actually to put money on the table to get an idea closer to the marketplace. So Penn State will put $1.5 million on the table next year for faculty and students to make proposals, but the proposals have to be partnerships between inventors and entrepreneurs, between the College of Business and Chemistry, or between the College of Business and Engineering. So this is a way, again, to create that partnership so that the chemist can be the chemist, and the explorer and the entrepreneur is right next to them. And the third part about it is let's reward faculty when they do this well. Let's give them a university-wide award that says you're a job creator. You are successful in economic development. You've driven student career success, and we want to recognize you and reward you.
Reward you in perhaps also a promotion and a pay raise?
I certainly think that it'd be nice to have a check attached to it, and you know, many times our faculty aren't as interested in the check as they are the recognition, which is a compliment to them, I think.
Now, you mentioned this idea of letting the chemist continue to look to see what is behind door number 2. And that made me think, you know, if we sell Penn State patents so that it protects the right of that professor to continue to do the research he or she is so passionate about.
So we have rules by which we share these revenues, and we do this essentially together to license it or to sell it or to help facilitate the startup of a company, so that the university gets rewarded and the researcher gets rewarded. This is a good way to have it be.
So you've mentioned these entrepreneurs in residence, and there's money in your budget to hire 8 of them. Where do you how do you recruit an entrepreneur, and where will you install them at Penn State?
Yeah, so I'd like to see them in every college. I can't imagine a college that wouldn't benefit from an individual like this. So 8, in my mind, is just a beginning. And I think it might turn out that this would be a very exciting place for a person like that. And so we probably won't advertise in the same journals. But take another example, College of Education. People say, an entrepreneur in residence in the College of Education. Well, how are people being educated these days?
Absolutely.
Educational games is a big deal.
And online.
And online. So why not put the educational game entrepreneur right next to the faculty that are innovators in math education? And so the latest in math education is trained into educational games. It's putting the entrepreneur next to the inventor, the entrepreneur next to the knowledge base. And I think this might really enrich the opportunities in the university. And if I were into educational games, man, I would love to be located right there in the College of Education in a great university. So maybe we'll have better luck with these than we think.
Now, when you say an entrepreneur in residence, I read a little bit about entrepreneurs in residence in other settings, working with venture capitalists.
Yeah.
And there's someone who sort of comes on board and they know the nuts and bolts of getting investors and getting a team together, getting the money, getting it out to market, the licensing and all of those things. And it's often a short-term position. Do you see these as permanent positions for Penn State?
Either or. You might have somebody that would come spend a year. You might have somebody that just loves it and really would like to be a regular part of the faculty. The key is they've been there and they've done that.
You mentioned the College of Business, and it sounds like that's where we're going to see big changes, and it sounds like growth in the College of Business. You know, lots of people are interested in business classes, but it's very, very difficult to get into Penn State's Smeal College of Business because, you know, this is a premier business college and lots of interest. You're saying that every student in every major could benefit from some business courses.
If that's their inclination. So, you know, we've sort of divided this comprehensive landscape into a group of categories, and one of them is what we're doing internally, and another one is what we're going to do for students. So, you know, you think about it, say a student is a history major and they love history, and they're going to learn critical thinking skills and communication skills and history, but they don't have an intent to be a historian. And so they might be out there in the business world and attracted because of that they're good thinkers and good communicators. So why not advantage that student with a minor in business if they know that's where they're going so that they can make a deliberate decision? But I can't, you know, in music today, you could be gifted and you're not going to make a living unless you can market yourself. And look how many professions hang out a shingle. And look what the advantage to an engineer if you have a minor in business or a minor in entrepreneurship. So we can do a lot to advantage our students in a path that they seem to be taking anyway, is the idea.
And that's a part you're taking very seriously. The idea is economic development, job creation, and promoting student success.
Yeah.
And you're talking about really getting a handle on where Penn States end up after they graduate.
Correct.
And really having extensive data on where they are, what they're doing, what they're earning, and what the jobs prospects are for current students.
Right. So I think this advantages students in making deliberate decisions, and it helps us understand this is the path a Penn State student takes. So if that's the path, are there things we can do to make it easier for them to get there? If that's a deliberate decision that they're making. And many times that's opportunities and courses that we know that would advantage them if that's the path that they take. Plus, it allows our students to go into a major with their eyes wide open. This is what happens to a Penn State student.
And if you are interested in history, that's fine, but you might also need this if you want to make a job out of a history major. If you know
that's the path you're going to take anyway, let's advantage that student.
Now, you talk also about Entrepreneurship Bootcamp. Most of us know what a boot camp is. A lot of people are involved in fitness boot camps. What's an Entrepreneurship Bootcamp?
Okay, so another portion of this and this sort of four-part theme is, do we have the kind of ecosystem around our campus and campuses that support people that are creating startups? So what we'd like to do is have a place for them to go, walk off campus, have it be free as long as a group of people have said, you belong, your idea is ripe for this type of level, and then help those individuals with the things that are most difficult. Why not have free legal aid? Because otherwise they're going to spend their time online trying to figure out how to incorporate. Why not have mentorship on business, on access to capital? All of those things that we know are roadblocks. So you should be able to come into this space, this Invent Penn State space, and be mentored and have opportunity. And why not provide the opportunity for our alumni that want to help by creating mentors in residence inside this space and facility so they can commit themselves to, say, 1 day every month or a week a year. And they come in and they rub elbows with all of these people that are trying to create businesses, and they help them, they assist them. This is our alumni helping and our faculty helping individuals to be successful. So in a sense, you take the strain, and it's kind of a boot camp because you're learning so quickly.
You know, I said earlier that 8 out of 10 entrepreneurs who start businesses fail within 18 months. and they do so because they run out of money.
Yeah.
What you're talking about, it sounds like it's going to help, not because they were bad ideas, but because they didn't have the money for the legal advice and all of these other things, or for the physical space they might need.
Right. So,
to get
all of
this off
those
the ground.
things are advantages. To get that physical space for free, not to have to leap to renting, to get that mentoring that you need, access to capital you need. These are the things that a young entrepreneur will tell that they struggle with. One of the other key parts of this initiative is to add enough visibility that we can attract resources for these individuals, not by Penn State collecting the money and handing it and picking a winner, but by getting investors and giving them the opportunity to invest in Penn State ideas. So you have an intellectual property fair, and everybody can lay out their wares. Now we will actually provide a significant amount of money to award the winners of those fairs, but anybody can walk around and say, that's a great idea, I'd like to invest in that. And then the other part of it is we're actually going to create a Penn State branded platform where you post online your business plan, and we will open those business plans to our alumni and to our friends and community members. And the idea is that they can look at all these ideas coming out of Penn State and say, I'm going to invest $5,000. So this attracts angel investors and venture capitalists to invest in Penn State ideas. So this is part of the reason of taking it outside of our walls, because we're a public, and just facilitating people being able to invest in those ideas. Because those young entrepreneurs will tell you over and over again, how do I get capital? This is the hardest part for me. I'll give up. So why not make it easy for fellow Penn Staters to invest in ideas coming out of Penn State? And then after it's been there for a while, we'll open it up internationally using corporations that post business plans all over the world.
Okay, you have my mind racing.
Yeah,
Number of
it's
things that I want to talk about.
Yeah.
So this fair,
Yeah.
Intellectual property fair, are you thinking of something like a huge event at the Bryce Jordan Center?
Absolutely.
And people from all over the state, all over the country could come to see?
We're an $800+ million research machine full of ideas. Let's open up the Bryce Jordan Center. We're going to do this next spring. We will fill it full of ideas that are coming out of Penn State. We will have, for the first fair, $250,000 on the table to pick projects that are particularly close to the marketplace, and it's an opportunity for other people to take a peek at the ideas coming out of Penn State.
And you'll be inviting alumni, and there are so many Penn State alumni, first of all over the country, but many who are heads of corporations. And
many opportunities from people that are serial entrepreneurs that are always investing in. I talk to so many alumni, and they say, well, I'm part of an angel investment group, and I'm always picking on different ideas. Why not have them see the Penn State ideas? Right now, they can't see it, and they don't see what's going on. They don't know how to put their straw into the Penn State set of ideas. So let's help them.
Now, I'm also thinking Shark Tank,
Yeah.
a very popular program on television, and it sounds to me like this is an opportunity for people with ideas to put it in front of people who know how to get ideas off the ground, who can say, that needs a little bit of work, that's never going to make it, and this deserves another...
More attention.
Yeah.
So, and if you think about it, right now Penn State has a lot of flowers blooming. College of Business has a Shark Tank, IST has a Startup Week, engineering and agriculture, they do things like this. So what we're trying to also do is to elevate this, so it's not the $500, $1,000, $2,000 idea from that type of exercise, but move it up to a level where there's a significant amount of money that is there, and those will help those ideas that are really the good ones, I think, to be able to be fostered and to grow, especially if they can move from an IP fair, getting a significant recognition and award, into free space with mentors and the kind of boot camp environment that really launched them successfully.
This free space has me thinking about how there's going to have to be buy-in in the community by way of, business and industry or chambers of commerce.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering, to what extent has Penn State begun to create those relationships?
We have multiple times, and I would say that the community business leaders and community leaders are thrilled at the notion that Penn State's going to make this kind of investment. And we're going to make it in Commonwealth campuses too, not just University Park. But the bigger investment is University Park because there's a larger amount of research dollars that are there.
So there's also something called the Student Innovation Foundation.
Yeah.
Explain what that is.
Okay, well, so here is really the key. The university doesn't own a student's intellectual property. They're not our employee. They own it. Okay, so some places would look at that and say, okay, well, we're not going to spend all our money helping our students be successful in this framework. We're not going to do that mentoring and all these other activities outside of the walls of the university because we don't own that intellectual property. We should be facilitating intellectual property that we own. Well, I have the exact opposite notion, and that is we're there to make the students be successful. And whereas we may not sit there and say, okay, let's try this, let's create a student innovation foundation. Let's let our alumni build a kitty of money and have the student go to that innovation foundation for that type of mentoring that goes beyond the classroom. And have some funds there where a group of people can sit there and say, you know, that has a lot of promise. We're going to help kickstart you as well. And so it provides an avenue for students to become even more effective entrepreneurs. And my bet is if we do a good job, later on they'll give back. Plus, they'll be very successful, and that'll make us proud.
So we've talked about this $30 million initial investment. Where will that come from? And you know, this is not once and done. This is something that Penn State is in this for the long term. Creating jobs and student success is your mission. So
part of it is to get the space. And so that's one time. But there's at least $5 million there that's recurring. And investments that are occurring in the Office of the Vice President for Research, you know, the fair, the activities, the Penn State branded platform, all of these different areas that are make up this $5 million. And basically what we have done is we have moved university resources that haven't been gaining a lot of interest into interest-bearing accounts. And we're going to fund this off the interest. And the idea is that that money is there as security for the university. And I've said if the university needs the money, they'll be able to go get it. But in the meantime, let's earn as much money on it as we can, and we're going to fund these initiatives off the interest. So that's what we're doing.
Now, Penn State is involved in research in energy and the health sciences and engineering and education. I mean, the list goes on and on.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering, is there an idea or two from some of the different colleges or research areas that you think, here's an idea you can maybe tell us a little bit about?
Okay, I think really it's good to think about the spectrum. So I'll give you two possibilities. One is called additive manufacturing, 3D printing. And the vision is that someday in your home you'll have a 3D printer, and when the knob on the kitchen cabinet breaks, you go to your computer and it'll make the knob, and you won't go to a store. Penn State is a leader in that arena. We should be building businesses and opportunities around us. That way our students are educated in the cutting edge of additive manufacturing, and they're moving right into our community into good jobs. That's part of the idea of economic development, job creation, and student career success is innovation in the market and have the students follow the market. Let's take another perspective. We're named the #1 university in online baccalaureate degrees. That tells me that we have a whole group of people that are incredibly innovative in the technology and delivery of education online. Why aren't the industries being built up around us? Why aren't we having our students that are a part of that emerging area building their businesses right around us? So I just took two on two opposite ends of the spectrum, one that's materials and engineering and another that's on the educational side of things. Both would be perfect.
Now, you've sort of turned on its head the relationship most of us think of a university having with a state. The university usually goes to the state and says, what can you do for me? And you're saying, you know, what can Penn State do for the state? And we talked a little bit about the fact that some funding to the university is going to be restored. I'm just wondering, how excited is the legislature or the governor about what you're talking about?
I think every time I talk to to folks in the legislature, and I've had conversations with the governor. They're quite excited about the notion that we're not just putting our hands out, please give us more money, that instead we're sitting there saying, okay, we are here as for the common good, and we educate students from the Commonwealth, and they're more successful, and we have an economic impact on the state. Why shouldn't we take more seriously the notion of driving the economy and participating with the state as partners, because it'll make life better for all of us. It'll increase tax revenues, and we'll be able to do more and more things.
And if this really gets off in a big way, you're talking about recruiting companies to this region.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, I'm counting on it, recruiting companies to the state of Pennsylvania. I actually think this is a good thing to even ask a university president to do.
We have just a couple of seconds remaining, but how long will it take for there to be something tangible?
Well, we're going to, every time we do something, you're going to see Invent Penn State.
All right. Thank you so much for talking with us. That was Penn State President Eric Barron talking for a turn in the guest seat for this edition of Higher Education in Focus. We'll be back next month to continue our discussion on entrepreneurship and student career success. I'm Patty Satalia. For all of us here at WPSU, thanks for joining us.
Support for Higher Education in Focus comes from the Penn State Alumni Association, serving alumni and alma mater for 145 years. On the web at alumni.psu.edu. Penn State Bookstore, improving the student experience at Penn State with philanthropic support of student causes throughout the university. On the Hub lawn or at psu.bncollege.com. The attorneys of McNeese, Wallace, and Nurek. Your mission, your goal, your lawyers. More at mwn.com. Higher Ed Jobs, a comprehensive list of open faculty, administrative, and executive positions at colleges and universities across the U.S. and worldwide. Online at higheredjobs.com. And from viewers like you. Thank you. On the next Higher Education in Focus.
You've talked about incentivizing this entrepreneurship. Explain how that will happen.
Okay, so there's an old adage. Every great inventor needs a great entrepreneur to get an idea to the marketplace. So if we put an entrepreneur in residence, and if we put them, by virtue of their experience, on the faculty next to a chemist, they've got a partner to get that idea to the marketplace.